What is up, Ravens flock? Huge shout out for your support for the 410 Sports Talk. James and Glenn are the best in the business. They're killing it right now. They love talking Raven talk. Make sure you go subscribe to their channel. Let's go Ravens. Big trust.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm James Haskell, along with my co-host Glenn Martin. And we're here to talk about something that you guys already know by now, but I think it's still worth discussing, and that is the re-signing of one Ravens player. So the Ravens technically made another move in free agency, and based on the title, you guys already know who it is. But Glenn, who are we talking about today?
Yeah, Project Pat Ricard, Mr. Pancake himself, is back in Baltimore. In a bit of a, I guess it shouldn't come as too much of a surprise, but there was some worry that he could be lured to go to another team. I think he took a couple visits, and the worry, of course, New England being where I think he's from, Massachusetts, so that was kind of the big worry. But he did agree, in principle at least, to a 3-year contract back with the Ravens. And I don't think he's backing out of this one because he tweeted it and seems pretty excited and jacked up to be back. So, yeah, excited to have him back. And look, this is a guy who's important to the Ravens and probably more important to the Ravens than he would have been anywhere else.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more. His value is highest here, and so allowing him to go out there and put it, dip his toe in the water probably made him realize that, like, all right, well, he probably felt a little bit like a square peg trying to fit in a circle hole in a lot of instances, and like you said, there's really only a few teams where there's a natural fit, and his value is certainly highest here. So his deal, I think you mentioned this already, makes him the second highest paid fullback in the NFL, right behind former Raven Kyle Juszczyk at $4 million a year annually. So nothing to sneeze at for a fullback. Certainly, that's quite a living. I'm sure our guy, Leron McClain wouldn't mind getting that money.
No.
Certainly. But I want to talk about what it means for the Ravens in a few ways, what it means in free agency, and then also what it means for Pat and the Ravens moving forward. I want to start actually with the second one because, and I want to kick this to you, Glenn, because I saw a tweet that was basically a retweet where somebody said that Patrick Ricard and his agent were talking with other teams about their usage of him. Like if he went there, a lot of folks said what was being tossed around was the position tight end, not a full-time tight end, but a larger chunk in the tight end role for one Patrick Ricard. And so in my mind, he's making a lot more money. What's the evolution? Like what's the next step here in Baltimore for Patrick Ricard as a Raven?
Yeah, that's the big question. I think we did see an evolution last year with Boyle being limited in when he was in there. We did see Pat Ricard do a lot more tight end things, line up in many different spots on the formation, block many different levels of the defense. And I think that he also showed a lot more value as a receiver than a lot of people, would have thought. I mean, I think there's no doubt that he lacks when it comes to straight line speed, but there's also now no doubt that no corner or really member of the secondary wants to meet Pat Ricard in the open field when he has the ball in his hand. So he is becoming quite a weapon for the Ravens, and more than just the bruising blocker that he's mainly known for. But when it comes to that, he's by far the best. I mean, you look at any rating system, any grading system, it's not even close how much better of a blocker he is than even his peers at the same position. It's a massive improvement. And then you look what he does out of the backfield. I think he's a guy that's perfect for this system. But my question, I want to kick back to you, Jimbo, is did they have to pay this amount of money, or do you think the agent was just making up these other offers?
Right. It's so funny. Just so you guys know, Glenn and I don't really discuss the questions we want to ask each other before the show. And I was just about to ask you the same question, like, are you okay with this contract, basically, right? Because it seems like it's one of those things where I don't know if that deal had to have been made in that way to keep him. I think that it's definitely possible that he could have made less money and stayed. But this is the way that I'm framing it in my mind. I think the Ravens are doing the same. I think that this is the way that they are expressing this to Pat. Like it's okay to pay him a little more. So you pay him, say arbitrary number. Say you pay him $1 million more than you wanted to per year. But what you do is you then double the expectations. And you say, you know what I mean? So from a return on investment standpoint, now instead of getting, a 50% back, you're getting 150% back because your expectations are so much higher. And you can say, Pat, look at your paycheck, right? Dollar for dollar, you're the second highest paid player at your position. The only guy that's paid more than you is used, very much like a tight end. Now they're totally different players, like physically, stylistically, and everything. But I think the important thing here is that we'll see a few things happen. And I think that you'll bring this up, but like certainly the snap count, I think for Patrick Ricard will go up.
Yeah.
I think that his overall opportunities to be used as a weapon, like you mentioned, will go up. And so I guess to answer your question, I don't think they had to pay it to him. I think he earned it, and I think it's a good story to tell here in Baltimore. Look, at the end of the day, I still think it's a great value because if you're asking me, Glenn, and I'm sure you'd be willing to agree with me here on this one. Patrick Ricard is way more valuable than Kyle Juszczyk. I don't care what anyone says because Kyle Juszczyk can be a way better receiver. Like all that is cool, but just the utility of Patrick Ricard amazes me. He can do so much. Now, catching and numbers and like those things pay, right? Like we see that. But from a value standpoint, Pat's overall utility is just incredible to me. So I don't think they had to pay it, but I think because they paid the extra, they're asking for a lot more back from him.
Yeah, absolutely. With with a higher paycheck comes higher expectations. And the reason I'm okay with it is because first of all, when I think some more details came out, the annual rate for him, at least what Sarah Ellison tweeted out, is 3.75 per year, and Kyle Juszczyk's at 5.4. So it's still a pretty substantial gap between those two when it comes to annual salary. And he's, Nick Boyle's making 6.5. So it's still, half almost of what Nick Boyle's
sure
making.
They'd like that contract back.
Right. So it's still, in my opinion, great value for all that he does. And when I look at his snap count, he played in 44% of the offense's snaps, but that's not accounting for all the games that he missed. So when you actually dive a little deeper into it and look how many games he actually played, when he was healthy, he's playing far more than 45% of the offensive snaps. It's much closer to 60. So he's still immensely important to this team. And if, like you meant when we mentioned Nick Boyle, it's still a little bit of uncertainty if he'll ever get back to even 85, 90% of what he once was, much less 100. This guy can check the box when it comes to a fullback, when it comes to your main blocking tight end, if he had to be, as well as some pass catching duties, in a, obviously much lesser role than Mark Andrews, but
certainly probably equivalent to like a guy like Nick Boyle, right?
Exactly. He can fill in the role as a fullback and the role as your primary blocking tight end. And so to me, 3.75 is well worth it. And in this offense, an offensive line is extremely important. We all know that. But having a fullback who can block as good as an offensive lineman, covers up some holes and some deficiencies on that offensive line if you aren't able to patch all those spots this offseason. So I think he helps cover up holes, much like, a lot of other guys on this team.
Yeah, certainly a primary piece why the Ravens have been such a historically good running team 2 out of the past 3 years. Even last year they were good, but, it wasn't historic. Right. Just the proposition of imagine a guy pulling like a Ben Cleveland, massive, right?
Yeah.
And then following up, you got Patrick Ricard. And then after that, you got Gus Edwards or Lamar Jackson. You don't even know in some instances.
Or JK, yeah.
Yeah, right. So you got a guy that's extremely fast and shifty, or you got a guy that's going to hit you in the mouth after 800 pounds of men already did.
Yep.
So, yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think the value there is sky high. I'm happy to see it. But you're right. It was certainly one of the ones where you're like, did it have to be that much? But either way, I'm happy with swallowing it. And I'm happy with absorbing the contract. And looking forward to seeing more Patrick Ricard here. So let us know what you guys think.
Hold on, one last thing. I just want to say, it's not just the running game that makes him valuable. When he, in passing situations with Ricard on the field, Lamar Jackson averaged 9.7 yards per attempt with a 101 quarterback rating and a 3.4% sack rate. Without him on the field, he averaged 7 yards a carry, 91.6 rating, and a 10.4% sack rate. 7% increase
Not
in
7
the
yards
sack
a
rate.
carry, right?
Attempt. Did I say attempt?
Yeah, the second time you said carry, but I see what you mean. It was an attempt.
So it's a 9.7 with him on the field per attempt, 7.1 without him.
Wow.
101 rating with him, 91 without him, so 10 rating points different, and then 7% higher sack rate when he's not on the field. So not only does he improve the running game, he does a lot to help Lamar Jackson feel more comfortable and improves the passing game as well. And it's crazy. He just does a lot, and you wouldn't guess it from a 305-pound fullback.
Dude, he's a utility vehicle, right? Like he just is. He can do it all. And then show up at the dance in a suit looking good.
Looking clean.
All right. So yeah, super happy for Pat. You're absolutely right. So I'm interested to see what he does in the evolution of Patrick Ricard moving forward. Let us know what your guys' thoughts are on one Patrick Ricard back with the Baltimore Ravens for at least another 3 years. Right?
Yep.
At least another 3 years. Give us all your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll talk to you guys soon.